Guys, what is up? It is your girl, Rebecca Hall Boxley, and welcome to my podcast. So, this is actually like my first time trying to do a podcast, and just to let you guys know, I'm giving you guys a warning. I am a little nervous, I am a little scared, but I'm just here to share some tips with you guys on what has helped me grow and what has helped me get over depression and low self-esteem and things of that nature. So let's get into it, right? So what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the confidence in one's own ability and worth. So that means your self-worth, what you can do, how you can do it, how you feel about doing it. That's all self-esteem. Also, with self-respect, how do you feel about yourself? Do you have boundaries? Do you know how to set boundaries? Do you know how to keep these boundaries, right? Because a lot of times, especially women, we forget about boundaries. We know that we should have boundaries and we know that we should set these boundaries, but we keep going and we keep allowing people to cross over these boundaries and just completely disregard our respect that we have for ourselves because we want to make sure that everyone else is good. Now, when I say boundaries, I mean with your kids, with your parents, with your sisters, your brothers, your cousins, with everybody that comes into play, even with your job. We often put our boundaries on the back burner so that we can help someone else move further along. But what does that do to us? How does that make us feel? That puts us in a crappy situation. So then here we are. We're angry. We're upset. We are burnt out. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it because we don't know how to stick with our boundaries. I don't know if y'all knew, because I definitely didn't know this, but 85% of Americans have low self-esteem. 85% and 50% of Americans suffer from a diagnosed mental illness disorder, ranging from depression to eating disorders. That's a lot of people. That means 1 out of 2 people in America suffer from some type of depression or eating disorder or some type of mental illness disorder. So how do people get low self-esteem? Like, where does this come from? How do we even know we have low self-esteem? What happened? So, what causes low self-esteem? Low self-esteem starts in childhood. You know how you talk to your child, and your child is, doing what kids do over there playing, but you start yelling, right? So the next time they don't do that, they do something else. You start yelling again. But you don't tell your child why you're yelling. You don't redirect them or you don't teach them the proper way to do it. Instead, you're just constantly yelling. Low self-esteem starting in childhood, it starts from disapproving parents or caregivers. Parents who made you feel like nothing you ever did was good enough. So let me give you guys a backstory, right? So I have custody of my niece or whatever. I've had her since she was about 3. She was almost 4 at the time. And at the time, I was a kid. I was like 20, 21, I was still trying to live my best life, trying to figure out how I can get my groove on. And I really didn't know how to be a parent. I didn't want to be a parent, but I knew that it was either me or the system. And my mind frame was, nobody in my family, if I can help it, will ever go into the system. So I stepped up to the plate. I drove from Florida to South Carolina. It was a 9-hour drive, and back then I thought 9 hours was a long time. But now that I'm a little older with a lot more of experience, 9 hours is nothing. I wish the drive from Texas to South Carolina was 9 hours, but it's not. So where she came from was completely different than where she was going. Living with her grandparents versus living with me. Living with her grandparents, as we all know, grandparents let you get away with murder, right? I talk to my mom now, and my mom just lets my niece get away with complete murder, but stuff that my niece does, my mama would have killed me if I would have did half the stuff she do. So she was doing something one day, and I found myself yelling at her, and I was like, why are you doing that? Why don't you know any better? Mind you, she's 4 years old at this time. Me thinking because she's so smart, right, that she should know better. I walked into the kitchen and she's sitting on the floor eating a tub of frosting, and in my mind, I'm like, I would never do. Why are you just eating frosting? That's gonna make your stomach hurt, right? In my mind. So she sits there and she just starts crying. The next day she does something else, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And it must have been about a month later, and she was just crying, and she just blurted out, I can never do anything good enough. Why did I have to live with people who never taught me anything? They didn't teach me nothing. Why? And I had to take a step back, and I was like, I'm that disapproving parent. I'm that disapproving caregiver. Instead of teaching her and molding her, hey, you don't sit on the floor and eat frosting because it's bad for your health. It can make your stomach hurt. It can give you cavities. There's so many different things as to why you shouldn't just eat a tub of frosting. It has high fructose corn syrup. That's not good for your body. Let's try and redo it. Instead, I was yelling at her, expecting for her to understand the concepts that were inside of my head, instead of coming out and saying, hey, let's sit down and talk. So from that point forward, I kind of transformed my parenting skills. All right, I went from a dictative parent, because me now looking back, I can give myself corrective criticism. I went from a parent that was always disapproving, and I pointed out all the good things that she was doing. So now we have a token system, and we've been doing this token system for a while. And the token system is, these are your chores for the day. You get one for waking up. You just waking up and you're just smiling, and I got to see you smile today. I'm so happy that you smiled. She has a real bad problem with lying. So there's one on there that says, I told the truth. So if she told the truth, even if she told the truth once, she'll get that sticker. That's for washing dishes and other things of that nature. But if she forgets to do one thing, she still has opportunities to do that fun thing that she'll get to do at the end of the day. I think there's 12 in total, and there's 12 total chores on the list, and all she has to get is 7. So 7, and that also includes like easy things, such as, as I stated, waking up or smiling or something of that nature, just to give her opportunities to let her know, hey, yeah, you messed up today, but you still have that chance and you still have that opportunity to make it right. Not every bad situation is going to lead a child into never doing anything, because you don't want to set them up for that either, because that starts a whole nother range of just bad situations all the way around. So another thing that causes low self-esteem in early childhood is uninvolved parents or caregivers. Parents who don't pay attention. Parents who just aren't there. And at one point I was very guilty of this, because I got her when I was so young, and I believe it was within the first year. And she would be sitting on the floor painting, or she'll be sitting on the floor drawing, or she'll be out on the balcony playing cooking class, because she loves to cook. Even to this day, she still loves to cook. She'll be out there, and I'm making this, and I'm putting some flavorist on it. I mean, just extra. And instead of sitting there and playing with her, I kind of just didn't pay attention to what she had going on, and so she stopped asking me if I wanted to play, and that started hurting my feelings. And so I was like, why you don't ask me to play with you anymore? We can still play dress up. We can still play tea. And she said, because when I ask you, you don't pay attention to what I'm doing. You don't give me the attention that I want, so I just don't play with you, or I do something that'll get me in trouble. Biggest eye opener of parenting yet. And let me tell y'all something. Parenting does not, under any circumstances, come with a cookbook or a recipe. Everything I am learning on my own. I love my mama to death, but a lot of things that she taught me, that's not the way that I wanted to handle being an adult. And sometimes I find myself reverting back to the way she raised me. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. And so I try to, if I see something and I know that I'm doing it wrong, or if I learn something, I try to do it. Because if you are put in a situation, right, if you're put in a situation where you have to learn a lesson from it, and you don't learn that lesson from that situation, you're going to keep being put into that situation. So I try to learn from whatever situation or circumstances that I'm in, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. I always try to learn from it. Parental neglect. So parents who neglect to raise their kids is also another reason that causes low self-esteem. So if your mother didn't raise you, or your father didn't raise you, your grandma had to raise you, your aunt had to raise you, those are things that really bother a kid, because now they're thinking in their head, why wasn't I good enough? Why wasn't I enough to make my mama get off drugs? Why wasn't I enough, for my mama to step up to the plate and to raise me how everyone else kids are being raised? My niece goes to school every day. Well, it's the summertime, but she goes to school, and when she goes to school, she sees, kids talk about their mama or kids talk about their daddy, and she comes home and she's just like, I wish my mama would have raised me. I wish my mama wasn't on drugs. I wish my daddy loved me. And it just creates a whole nother level of trauma. This is going to be another topic we talk about later on, but trauma. What do you do when there's trauma that you can't see? What do you do when there's trauma that doesn't leave a physical scar? How do you heal from that trauma? And right now she's battling this trauma, and I'm trying to help her pull herself out of it, but it becomes an inevitable cycle. And she's battling this trauma because of parental neglect. Now, I know that the best situation for her was to come and live with me so that she could get all of her needs met. I know that. But she's a kid. Kids don't know that. Kids don't care if you standing on the corner hooking with Jimmy Jones over here in your corner, and you got Billy Bob sitting at the house, or you got 3 different uncles who done came in and out your life, or the lights done been turned off, or the water is turned off, or the food has molded in the refrigerator, or you don't have shoes on your feet or clothes on your back. Kids don't care about that. Kids care about their parents being in their lives. And when parents neglect their responsibilities to care for their child, it creates an inevitable cycle that's hard for them to break. Right? So what's another form of what else causes low self-esteem? Conflict. This is a big one. I try not to argue in front of my niece. I don't argue at all. Me and my wife, if we have a discussion or if we have a situation that neither of us agree on, I say, hey, you want to ride with me to the store? And both of us sitting in the car petty with attitudes like, yeah, I'll ride. So then we get in that car and we have our conversation in that car. But when we walk in that house, we're both smiling, we're both talking to my niece, we're both acting like, everything is hunky-dory, and we never had any issues. Parents or caregivers who frequently engage in mental, physical, and or verbal abuse in front of kids creates a negative atmosphere, right? And it creates mistrust, right? So the kid is now in this environment that is negative. And as they are growing up and they are getting older, they're having these negative thoughts and these negative influences and these negative feelings inside of them. I know from experience. Another backstory. Again, y'all, I love my mama to death, So her and my stepfather was together for 13 years. And as they were together, they fought on a regular, day in and day out, and they constantly fought. And so with me seeing them constantly fight, it created a defense mechanism inside of me. And I don't like conflict. I don't like arguing. And being married teaches you that sometimes a little bit of conflict is good, but you don't do it in front of kids, And so normally if I wasn't married and it was just anybody else on the street, if I got into an argument with you, I wouldn't argue with you. I would tell you how I felt, but then I would avoid you. And that's not good either. I would avoid you and I would just not get it out and I would just leave it alone, And that's something that was brought to my attention as well. But now, I try to talk out what my problem is. I try to say, hey, this is bothering me. I don't really want to argue about it. I want you to know I love you before we even get started on this discussion. But this is really bothering me. But even during all of that, I do not do any of that in front of my niece, right? So another thing that causes low self-esteem, which I think this one is pretty obvious. Well, the next two are pretty obvious. Bullying and academic strife, which means you're being bullied by your peers, you're being bullied by your family members, You're failing in school. You don't really grasp the concept of it. You don't really know what's going on, and you don't have anyone to help you through it. So bullying is very basic. Growing up, I was the healthy kid, right? So growing up, I was the chunkiest one. My sister was skinny. My brother was skinny. All my cousins were skinny, and I was the healthier one. I was kind of chunky. And so I often got bullied by them because of it. And so that really tore down my self-esteem a lot. There are certain clothes I still won't wear to this day, but back then there were really certain clothes I didn't wear. I wore oversized clothes so that it would cover up my body so no one could see. Bullying created a self-esteem deficiency. I was deficient in my own self-esteem. I didn't know what to do or how to do it, and back then I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know that I had low self-esteem back then. And of course, being bullied by your own family members, the people who you are supposed to trust and the people who you love the most, they are taking away a part of you, and they're filling your body with lies, and they're filling your mind with lies, and you don't know how to break the cycle. It took me a long time to break that cycle. It took me a long time to say, you know what, despite of how you feel about me, I love me. Failure in school. So whenever you have all these issues going on at home and then you're still failing in school, that's another thing that causes low self-esteem, because it makes you feel like you just can't get anything right. We have 3 more, guys. So the next one is trauma. Next one is trauma. So sexual trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma, and verbal trauma, or verbal assault. So sexual trauma, sexual assault, being raped, and this is one of the topics that is very dear to me, because I know so many women who have been molested and they never came forward about the person who raped them, right? So this girl had came to me or whatever, and she was living with her mother, and this is when we were kids. We were maybe in elementary school, maybe 3rd or 4th grade. And she came out and said that her dad was sexually assaulting her. He was molesting her. And to this day, she still has these trauma issues. She still deals with PTSD. There's some days when she just blacks out because she can remember so vividly what happened to her. And he never apologized. He never said, hey, baby, I'm sorry that I did what I did to you. I should have been a better parent. I should have stopped doing what I did. I should have never done it. And she still battles with that. She doesn't understand why her. Why did he choose her? She doesn't understand physical, mental, and verbal assault. So physical assault is when you are domestic violence. Whenever you are being physically hit. Mental is when someone is just tearing down your self-esteem, just tearing you down, just completely telling you you're not good enough, telling you that you're no good. All of these things causes a barrier that stops you from being able to own your truth, that stops you from being able to sing the confidence whenever you look in the mirror, that stops you from being able to say, you know what, I got this, I don't need you, I can move on. People do that because they need control over you, and they find the number one thing in your life, and they find a way to control it and manipulate it, and so they can manipulate you and control you and keep you where they want you to be. So trauma is definitely a big one. I think that should definitely be within my top 5 low self-esteem causes. This next one, belief system. So you guys, I grew up in a very religious family. And when I say very religious family, I mean we had church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We went to church every day. If we wasn't going for Bible study, we had a revival. If we wasn't going for a revival, we had Sunday school. We had regular church. We had dance practice. We had devotion. We had everything. We had usher meetings. We had to be on the usher team. And my whole life growing up, I was taught that what I was doing or how I felt or the person that I loved was a sin. Once I finally came out and first of all, you guys, my cousin my cousin told my mom. I didn't even have the chance to tell my mom that I was gay. My cousin came out and told everybody, oh, she's gay. Everybody was shocked because I was a quiet cousin. I was the quiet one who didn't do anything. So when I did something that was so controversial, everybody was just flabbergasted. They were like, oh my God, you're not the golden child after all, And so that created a whole area of conflict within myself. I was fighting against who I am as a person. I can't help that I love a woman. I can't help that I like women. That's something that I just cannot control. I can't help that I don't like men. I can't help that I don't like, at the time I didn't like boys. That's something that I couldn't control. But to satisfy them, I tried to control it. I had a boyfriend. I kissed him. That's the extent to what we did. And I was just repulsed. I couldn't do anything with it. I was sorry. I felt bad, but there was just nothing that I could do. But my whole life, up until a certain point, I was trying to satisfy my family because I was told that I was sinning and that I was going to hell. Or that, God isn't going to accept you. God doesn't love you. God looks down on you. All these things because of the person that I chose to love. Now, here we are, 10 years later. Well, actually more than 10 years now, 15 years later, and I'm married to a woman, and she is actually the best thing that has ever come into my life besides my niece. I love her to death. But even with these constant tear downs and me being forced to read the Bible verbatim and saying, okay, this is what you're supposed to be, this is how you are, I still couldn't change me. I still couldn't change who I was. But although I couldn't change it, I'm not going to say that at that time it didn't create a conflict within me. There's a lot of shame, and I still battle with this today, but I'm learning to move on from it and to get over it. There was a lot of shame because I love the woman that I love, because I was taught that what I'm doing is wrong, right? So belief systems is a very huge one, and parents don't even understand. People don't even understand that forcing this system and forcing this belief because of something you don't understand is tearing and messing up the other person. I was told yesterday, we're not free until we're all free. And I believe in that. I believe in that wholeheartedly. So society and the media is the last one that I have on my slides for low self-esteem. Society and the media, it's a lot like the belief systems, actually, if you think about it. So it makes you feel as though you should look exactly as the models on television, or you're constantly comparing yourself to your peers, or you feel inferior to your supervisor or your coworker or something of that nature. So in society, we often want to be like the Joneses. We want to look like the Joneses. We want to have the money like the Joneses. We want to go out here and go on trips and live our best life like the Joneses. But why? The path that the Joneses had to take to get to their success is not the same path that God has destined for you to have to take to get to your area of success. Until we learn to love what we have going on and love what's in our lives, we're never going to be satisfied. It doesn't matter what the Joneses have. It doesn't matter what you end up accomplishing in life. You're never going to be satisfied because you're not comfortable with who you are, and you're not comfortable with where you at in life. And the media is the same way. The media puts these perfectly thin people, or now they have these BBWs who don't have any rolls. They don't have a stomach. Stomach is completely flat. Stomach got six packs. But their bottom area is larger than their top area. And they're portraying them as the face of BBWs. No, ma'am, that's not what I look like. I'm a proud BBW, and I'm okay with all this extraness. But my stomach is not flat. My stomach is big. My stomach is big, and I got rolls, and I got thighs and hips and everything else. And that's okay. But we look too much into the media for confirmation and affirmation. And, oh, this is what I want to look like. So let me go drop $10,000 on a new body in Miami so I can get me the Brazilian butt lift and be rocking it. Hot girl summer all summer long. But now you broke. You done spent all your tax money, or you done saved up for this for 10 years, 5 years, however many years, and now you sitting here and you have this new body and you're proud and you're happy about your body, but you're still dealing with that mental problem that you have going on. You're still dealing with the low self-esteem. You're still dealing with the self-hate. You're still dealing with the self-disrespect because you never addressed the issue. You know, you never addressed the internal issue. You addressed the surface issue. You addressed the issue that was going to get you likes. You addressed the issue that was going to get you attention. You addressed the issue that was going to get you temporary relief, not long-term relief. And a lot of times we focus on temporary relief because we want the relief right here, right now. We want to stop feeling bad about ourselves right here, right now. So what do? You do whatever it is that you need to do to feel that temporary relief, instead of sitting down with ourselves and having a deep connection with ourselves and saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry that I did this to me. You know, I understand that I've been through all these things, and yeah, my mama did this, and my daddy should have been there, my auntie wasn't there, my uncle wasn't there, my grandma could have stepped in, she could have stepped up to the plate. Yeah, all these things they could have done, but I'm the only person now that I am grown who is holding myself back. You know, my biggest enemy is myself. And so now, instead of wanting to sit down and have that real conversation, having a real life conversation with ourselves, we're too afraid, because we're too afraid to face ourselves. We can go out here and face everybody else. You know, criticism from outside sources is nothing compared to criticism for yourself. So you guys, that's all I have for this week. I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you listened to my podcast yesterday, I want to apologize. I was really nervous. I was super nervous. But, you know, after talking to my mentor, and she just basically said, girl, you're going to have to get over this, get yourself together, and go out here and talk to these people. And so that's what I did. If there's a topic that you want to listen to, or if there's a topic you want to talk about, just go ahead and shoot me a comment. You can follow me on Facebook. It is Sunflowers Life Coaching. That's what it is. The page is called Sunflowers Life Coaching, and the link will be on my podcast page, so you can just click on it and go there. Leave me a review. I'm okay with corrective criticism. I will take your points into consideration, and I will use it to adjust my style. Or if I feel like that area I'm okay with it, and then I'll just leave it alone. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I can't wait to speak with you next time. Remember that you are beautiful. I love you, and you have so much more to offer.